Get this beat untagged for free at freebeats.io. Get this beat untagged for free at freebeats.io.
Oh, what is going on, Spurs Nation? Thank you guys in the comments for letting me know that I'm muted. I don't know why that happens every time. I'm gonna have to edit that out. But this whole video is about grading, giving final grades to the San Antonio Spurs roster. So let's start with the top, right? Lamarcus Aldridge. Lamarcus Aldridge was on pace, I think, defensively to do something pretty special. Yeah, thanks, Gio. Thanks, Hi-Fi Treason. Thank you, guys. DC715. Thank you for tuning out. We're giving final grades, right? Lamarcus Aldridge, I think, defensively did a lot better than people give him credit to. He was on pace to break his own record for blocks in the season. I think when the season let out, he was currently 10th in the NBA. So defensively, he was getting it done. I mean, offensively, he was getting it done too. So let's take a look at his stats, right? Lamarcus Aldridge was averaging per game, right? This isn't total, but per game, he was averaging 18 points, 18.9 points. He was shooting 49% from the field. Now, let's look at his total rebounds. 7.4 rebounds. It was 18 and 7 guy every night. Or the blocks, 1.6 blocks per game. That was the most on our team. Jakob was right behind him at 1.4. So he was doing it every single night for the Spurs on the defensive end. And you know what? He was the guy that we went to night in, night out to get us a bucket. So the fact that he was injured so much this season and the lack of wins that we were able to produce with not just him. I'm not blaming, the way that we started this season on Lamarcus Aldridge. But if I'm going to give him a final grade for this season, it's got to be a B. I'm going to give him a B. All right. So Lamarcus Aldridge, let's see, is going to receive a B from Rob. Thank you guys for hanging out. Make sure to like this video. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to subscribe to our channels. And we appreciate you guys and all the support, right? So Lamarcus Aldridge is getting a B from Rob, right, for the 2019-2020 season. Next up is our second big gun, Demar Derozan. Demar Derozan, if I'm going to give him a letter grade, I got to factor in bubble play. And the fact that in the bubble, he was our closer. He was our rock. I mean, he really did take a back seat and let the young guys take over the game and try to keep the whole team in the game from the first quarter to about mid-third. And that's kind of when the Spurs started looking to go to DeMar DeRozan down the stretch. And he produced, man. He produced. He was our guy down the stretch, and he was able to drop, I don't know, like 15 points in about a quarter and a half. He's just that guy. He was able to do that for us. And not only that, I feel like he had a lot of influence on the young guys developing in the bubble. So for that reason, I'm going to give DeMar DeRozan an A for the 2019-2020 season. I'm really putting a lot of weight into the bubble play. All right, so next up for the San Antonio Spurs is Dejante Murray. Dejante Murray had a lot on his shoulders this year. Let's not forget that in the beginning of the season, he had to endure a minute restriction. He had to build the confidence in his body, in his knees, right? Just coming off the pretty bad ACL tear from the previous season. There's some mental gaps to be closed, and I think the first 20-30 games for Dejante Murray was just that, getting his legs under him, really feeling himself out, because you can't replicate game speed, and Dejante Murray needed game reps in order to get himself back. To be honest, I think the Spurs should have brought him off the bench if that was going to be the point. I don't think Derrick needed to come off the bench and play more minutes than Dejante in the first 20 games, and that kind of set us up for failure, if you ask me. So Dejante Murray didn't just stop there, right? So he had spurts throughout the regular season. Dejante Murray per game, let's look at his stats here. He played in 66 games, started in 58 of those games, averaged about 25 minutes per game, 10 points, 1.7 steals. Let's see what's up with this music here. There we go. That's really where you want to look at Dejante Murray, is how he did on the defensive end and kind of those intangible stats, because we know that the shots aren't going to be there for Dejante Murray. So if you're grading Dejante, you don't want to look at his points. You don't want to look at how many shots he took and how many shots he made. Even though he did shoot really well from the field. From the field he shot 46%, taking about 9 shots per game, right? Not too much, but he was able to stay efficient with it. But let's look at the intangible stats. Now, for a point guard, he's got to be one of the top point guard rebounding point guards in the league. He would come down with about 5.8 rebounds per game, 4.1 assists. So he was playmaking mostly for Lamarcus Aldridge and Demar Derozan this entire season. Rarely did you ever really get to see him mix it up with the second unit, or Lonnie or Derrick. Those guys didn't play a lot together until the bubble. So 1.7 steals. That was the most on our team this season. So he did lead the Spurs in steals per game, right? So he was getting it done on the defensive side of the ball. Now, I think we all have high expectations for Dejante, so we want to see more out of him. I think not in terms of statistics, but in terms of controlling and taking over games. Not necessarily with his shot creation, but just like being smart and savvy. I think there was a couple times in the bubble where he looked like he was forcing things a little bit too much, right? So right now we're talking about Dejante Murray, in case you guys are wondering. Dejante Murray struggled in the bubble. I don't think that's a mystery. But for a full season under his belt, coming back off of his injury, and the Spurs just really picked up where they left off with Dejante. They were going to give him the keys 2 years ago. They gave him the keys this season on a minute restriction, so he had to deal with that early. He had to find his groove. Right around All-Star break, after All-Star break, is when we had that game against Utah where him and Donovan Mitchell were just going at it. And Dejante Murray showed us that he can ball with some of the best guards in this league, right? But if I'm going to give him a grade for this season, it's got to be a B-. All right, so Dejante Murray is getting a B- here, just because I think there was more that he could have showed us in the bubble. And I think that was his opportunity to do more offensively. He struggled against the zones. There was plenty of times where we see him put his head down and just kind of try to bully through a zone and end up being a turnover or a forced shot. There was a lot of times in the bubble, and again, when we talk about bubble play, that's really where we played our best, right? So it's not like we're judging these players off of just what they did in the bubble, but hey, if you want to talk about the previous 52 games or whatever it is they played during the regular season, that's when they weren't playing all that well. The style of play that we were rolling with was not effective enough to get us W's. But overall, for Dejante, B-. There's room there for him to grow, and I was close to putting him down at a C. I really wanted to put him down at a C, but when you look at what he did in the steals category, in the rebound category, and in the assist category. That's another thing. It's like he wasn't playmaking a lot, but what he was doing was finding Lamarcus Aldridge in his spots, finding DeMar DeRozan, cutting to the lane, penetrating and dishing to guys, and finding Bryn Forbes in transition. Like, those were his 3 moneymakers in the assist category, right? So Dejante Murray, B-. So if you're just tuning in with us, Lamarcus Aldridge gets a B, and I hold that B for him because what he did on the defensive end, obviously we weren't that successful feeding him, 15 times a game on the offensive end, but on the defensive end, when he was not there, we struggled. DeMar DeRozan's getting an A for me, man. DeMar DeRozan just balled out all season long, and I love what he did in the bubble. I love how he took the back seat and then closed the games. So that's honestly how we need to use him. That's how if he's on our team next year or not, wherever he's at, that's the recipe for success with DeMar DeRozan. It's not giving him 20 touches a game. It's not feeding him early and often. It's really letting the game come to him, let him rest, let him do other things that he's good at, rebound, push the ball in transition, find open guys, create for others, right? That is where DeMar DeRozan kind of needs to live in the first half, I feel like. In the second half, that's when you let the beast go, right? So he did that for us in the bubble, so he's getting an A. Dejante Murray again with the B-. Y'all just heard that. Next on deck is Trey Lyles. Trey Lyles was our savior when Lamarcus Aldridge was out. He really did just kind of carry the load for us there. I put a lot on his shoulders when Lamarcus Aldridge was announcing that he was not going to be in the bubble. And then a week into the bubble, Trey Lyles gets appendicitis, right? So he has to get his appendix taken out. But let's look at what Trey Lyles did this season. He played in 63 games. He started in 53 of those. Now, that's the biggest surprise. I don't know what was the biggest surprise for y'all this year. There was definitely a lot of surprises. Talking about Lonnie Walker, how many minutes he didn't get early on, the starting unit, right? How bad they were early on. The rotations, so many things that Spurs Nation had problems with, concerning the San Antonio Spurs. But one of the biggest surprises to me was that Trey Lyles came in and just took that starting 4 spot and never let it go. He only didn't start in 10 games this year, and that's because Trey Lyles came in, and he's honestly like a perfect fit for the Spurs at that position. Let's take a look at his stats. Let me see. He started shooting the 3 ball really well late in the season. Shooting 38% from 3, taking about 2.7. I know that's with Lamarcus Aldridge on the floor. When Lamarcus Aldridge was not playing in that game, he took about 5 to 6 threes per game. If you want to get more of a breakdown of how Lamarcus Aldridge being off the floor affected Trey Lyles, Jakob, and some of these other guys, go to my channel, Spurs Film Room, here on YouTube, and look at San Antonio Spurs without Lamarcus Aldridge. That film room breakdown right there is kind of dives into what Trey Lyles did this year. We really missed him in the bubble. I feel like he's one of those guys that could have elevated us against teams like Philadelphia. It sucks that we had to lose against Philadelphia, and then what happened to their season after that, because that game, that 3 ball in Dejante's face was really the one that game is the one that we wish we can get back, right? And then maybe things would have been different for us, maybe getting into that play-in tournament with Portland, and then seeing what happens from there, because I like the Spurs, man. I like how he played in the bubble, and I think Trey Lyles was going to be a big part of that, and so it sucks that he was not able to play. So let's take a little bit more look. Let's take another look at his stats. Let's look at his totals for this season. Trey Lyles totals, or his per game. See here, it says they only averaged 6.4 points per game, and through the first 30 to 40 games of this season, he was very passive. He really just wanted to facilitate, I felt like, and he was good at it. Let's see, he averaged almost 2 assists a game, 5.7 rebounds. Trey Lyles was, I feel like, the guy. I remember I did a podcast during the year, and I was talking about how Trey Lyles was kind of that guy that whenever he played well, we won, and whenever he was just like a non-factor, we struggled. And you can call that an X factor if you want, but Trey Lyles, for his first year with the San Antonio Spurs, let's give him a B, because he was probably one of the most consistent guys on our roster this season. Now, next up for this final grade report is the last starter that we haven't talked about, and that's Bryn Forbes. Bryn Forbes is a guy that Spurs Nation are very walking that tightrope on. You know, we like him, but then, whoa. When he starts doing bad, we're kind of struggling, right? So, Bryn Forbes started in all but one game this season. Going into the bubble, you know, he was, I'm trying to remember. You guys can tell me. I don't remember him being there that much in the bubble. I see the chats talking about this a lot. Cody Castillo, rip to Black Panther. Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, man. That was a shocker to everybody right now. Everyone's kind of feeling that wave right now, but we're gonna get right back to it. Bryn Forbes, he's a guy that was in a contract year that needed all the opportunity that he can get. When he played well, when he shot the ball well, we played well. The starting unit played well. But there was a lot of times in those first 20 games, and I always harp on these first 20 games because they set the tone for this season for us. I mean, we could have either came out strong and had a better record, but we struggled in those first 20 games. And when teams started realizing that Bryn Forbes was crucial to spreading the floor, and they started taking him off that three-point line, he struggled. And then we struggled. But this season, he shot 38% from the field. He was taking about 6 threes per game, knocking about 2.3 of those down. 2 rebounds a game for Bryn Forbes. That's a lot. 1.7 assists, about 11.2 points per game. So Bryn Forbes has all the runway this year to kind of prove that he can be a top shooter in this league, and he can be an effective player for the Spurs this season. But it was hit and miss. And I like Forbes. You know, I think when we bring him off the bench, that's always going to be a better look for San Antonio, because he's a guy that needs to play against second units, because I feel like he can just get his shot off more. You know, I wouldn't mind him taking 6, 7, 8 threes per game, but in the flow of transition and whatnot, he has a big summer in front of him. There's been a thought that's been going around in my brain that he's like one of those guys that might just explode if he ends up on a team like the Houston Rockets, where he doesn't have to play any defense and he gets to shoot as many threes as he wants. That's the type of offense I think Bryn Forbes can excel in. Not that I want to see him go to Houston, but I'm just saying, I would love for him to be a Spur for life. This season, though, he wasn't really part of the solution, right? So, coming off a great postseason performance against Denver from last year, it was a little bit underwhelmed with what Bryn Forbes did. So, for that reason, we're going to go ahead and give him a C. I was expecting a lot more out of Bryn, but I kind of put that on the coaches. They didn't really put him in a position to be successful. All right, so let's keep it going. That's your starting 5 for you. Let's go ahead and go through it real quick. Lamarcus Aldridge gets that B. Demar Derozan got to get an A. Dejante Murray with that B-. Trey Lyles with a solid B. I felt like he stepped up when we called on him to. I wished he would. There were many times throughout the season where he would just do it on his own, but it was really like when Lamarcus Aldridge was out, or Jakob was out, or when they were both out towards the end of the season. That's when he kind of turned up the juice and started making it rain from 3. He was getting, I don't know how many rebounds. He was a beast. So, and then Bryn Forbes kind of overall gets the C. All right, so let's move on to our bench now. the biggest name off our bench that we need to address first, to me, is the guy that my boy Destin from the OC loves to call whiteouts, and that's Derrick White. Derrick White deserves like a huge payday. He deserves like the longest contract. Whatever we can give him, we should this offseason. He's the ultimate pro. I mean, y'all remember him in the bubble. Jesus Christ. I was talking to my dad the other day, and we were just talking about, man, the way he plays defense, man. Look, I'm a basketball coach. I'm a guy that's all about the defensive side of the ball. That's the program that I learned from and that I'm all about. And what Derrick White does on defense is beautiful. It's like there's not even a word for it. You know what I'm saying? Like the way he's able to just control the game on the defensive side, sees the play 2 or 3 passes before it even happens, right? And he's able to adjust. He always has a good view on his guy and the ball, meaning what's happening on this side of the court. Let's say that he's over here, plays over here. He's always in a position to make an extra effort to go affect the play. And he was the ultimate pro. I mean, he started the whole season before, and then when Dejante came back, he willingly, I don't know how willingly, I wasn't there in the locker room, but he took the role of coming off the bench and spelling Dejante in those first 35 to 40 games when he was on the minute restriction, which is asking a lot from Derrick White, because Derrick White went from playing with the starters all season last year to playing with to now this year playing with the second unit for most of the game. And then when Dejante's minute restriction would kind of keep him out of the end of the fourth quarter, Derrick then had to come in and play with the starting unit to close out games sometimes. And that's a lot, man. But Derrick White held his own. Some of the best defensive play I want to say I've ever seen, man, and I'm not even joking, was the defensive play that he put on a show in the bubble. So Derrick White just kind of took the reins. And here's a newsflash. Derrick White has the second lowest payroll for the Spurs this season. Only Chimezie Metu, I think, was getting paid less than Derrick White. And, he was coming off a FIBA summer where he played great for Team USA, got all of that experience, which if you go back, if you've been following me since then, I kept talking about how huge that was going to be for Derrick White because of the level of competition that he was playing against night in and night out. And FIBA basketball is my favorite basketball, like organized style play, whatever you want to say, like the NBA, college, high school. FIBA is where it's at. That's where you got players that are playing aggressive. There's hand checking. It's way more. The refs aren't, doing all these ticky-tack fouls. There's no defensive 3 seconds. You can hit the ball off the rim. There's no goaltending. It's such an awesome way to play basketball. And then you throw the best players in the world playing for their country with all this pride, right? So, Derrick White was there and he got to experience all that, and that just propelled him this season. He went this whole season. Let's look at his stat line. His per game, because I want to know how many games he played. Derrick White played in 68 games this year. The most on the team, tied with Demar Derozan. No one else played more games than him. Averaged 24 minutes a game. Come on, man. 24 minutes a game. 11 points. About a block a game. Half a steal a game. 3.5 assists. 3.5 rebounds per game. He was one of those guys that just filled up the stat sheet. Like in every category, every game, he had something. He was doing it all. And when him and Dejante were on the floor together, that was a really good defensive lineup. But I think what a lot of people liked more than Derrick White and Dejante on the floor together was Derrick White and Keldon Johnson on the floor together, right? So that's something that we're going to be hoping for we hope we can get those two on the floor together on the deep, for the next 10 years, right? Thank you guys for watching this video. We're not done yet. We're barely getting into the bench. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video, go Spurs go, leave a comment. Thank you guys who are hanging out with me in the chat room. Let's get back to it. So Derrick White, what we got to give Derrick White. Derrick White gets an A plus if I could, right? So let me go ahead and put that in here for you guys. Let me give him his final letter grade, because not only does he deserve an A plus for his play, but he deserves an A plus for being an ultimate pro, an ultimate teammate, being ready for any situation that he had to be in this year. Was just unbelievable to watch. You know, he's one of those guys that I feel like we need to keep forever with this young group, right? I don't think we're going to find a better defender at his position. I would take him over any other point guard in the league. I would take him over any other point guard in this draft just because of the way he defends. And then we saw him in the bubble start taking all these these spot up threes, right? And so his spot up three in the bubble was money. He had one of the most improved. He was one of the most improved players in the bubble. He was one of the top 5 performers, I believe, at one time before they got bounced, before he got injured, I think, towards the end. So Derrick White, man, like white out. This dude, to me, if it was up to me, he would be in the starting lineup. We need him in the starting lineup because he's just a heady guy. He's a point guard's point guard, man. He sees the floor on the offensive side. He sees the floor on the defensive side. And he knows how to play to what the defense gives him. And that's kind of what Dejante doesn't do. Dejante likes to force the issue on the offensive side of the ball. That's what I'm talking about. And when Derrick is on the offensive side, he takes exactly what the defense gives him. He comes off a pick and roll, and if they're sagging, he attacks, or he'll stop and pull up, or if they're following him over the screen on the pick and roll, he'll attack the rim and just hit. He always makes the right play, dude, and that's the type of guy that we need to have in this system. Okay, so let's keep it moving. Derrick White gets the A+. Next up for the San Antonio Spurs is our Aussie, Mr. Patty Mills. Now, Patty Mills is a different story. Patty Mills was not really there in the bubble. You know, once we went to the bubble and he decided to give away all his money, he was like, I'm going to donate all my money to Black Lives Matter movements in Australia, I believe. I feel like Coach Pop and them were like, nah, man, you're good. You're not going to risk your body, your health for nothing, you know, for no money. He did end up playing in about 1 or 2 games for us when we needed him, when Marco Belinelli went down and Bryn Forbes went down. It was like, okay, well, who else is left? Quindary Weatherspoon and Patty Mills, you know. So Patty Mills kind of stepped in when he had to. But let's talk about Patty Mills during the regular season, pre-bubble. Like, Patty Mills pre-bubble was amazing. He was our 3rd best player all year long. And if you want to put Demar Derozan and Lamarcus Aldridge as our first 2 at the top of our list, we're talking about most productive players this season, because we just didn't win games. I mean, they were very productive, very efficient, man. They played well, but Patty Mills was that 3rd guy that came in and just lit it up. So let's look at his per game stats right now. Patty Mills played in 66 games, 22 minutes per game, 11.6 points per game. That's 3rd most on our team, right? So DeMar DeRozan finished with 22 points per game, Lamarcus Aldridge with 18.9, and then right after them was Patty Mills with 11.6. All right, so I wasn't lying by saying, you know, it's not a stretch it's not a stretch saying that he's our 3rd best player this year. And he had another great FIBA games too. So let's go back to talking about FIBA again, right? So in the summer, Patty Mills was just balling it up for Australia. I mean, y'all know FIBA Patty, and San Antonio has been calling for FIBA Patty for I don't know how long, right? They've wanted FIBA Patty to play like that for San Antonio, and this year we actually did get it. You know, we actually did get Patrick Mills doing the Aussie thing in the silver and black, right? So, I like to say that I'm very proud of Patty. All that stuff, like everything he did. Patty, I don't have one thing that's bad to say about Patty. I just think it's kind of a reflection on San Antonio, on our team, when he's our third best player. Like, we needed other guys to kind of be that guy. We need Patty to be our fourth, fifth best player, maybe, for us to be playoff contenders, championship level contenders. We're not a championship level contender if Patty's our third best player. I'm sorry, that's not a knock on Patty. That's a knock on the rest of the team. But Patty picked up right where he left off in the summer and just started balling out for us this year. So Patty is going to go ahead and get that A+ from Rob. All right, so Patty Mills getting that A+. So let's kind of go down the bench. Let's see where we're at. First off, we started about Derrick White. He got that A+. Patty Mills got an A+, or A as well. All right, so next for our bench unit is the guy that has all the swag, the fashion guru, Mr. Runway himself, Mr. On the Catwalk, Rudy Gay. Rudy Gay is the exact opposite story of Patty Mills, right? Patty Mills balled out all season, didn't do much in the bubble. Rudy Gay didn't do much all season and did a lot in the bubble. It was really like throwing back the clock, putting Rudy Gay in the time machine when we stepped into Orlando, because he went from taking on average, I don't know, 6-7 shots a game to maybe about 9 or 10, 11 in the bubble. He started taking a lot of those mid-range shots. In transition, he was more aggressive. We started even feeding the ball to him on the low block and letting him facilitate and try to find other players that are open. And Rudy Gay stepped up in the bubble. I have nothing bad to say about Rudy Gay. If you watched any of our watch parties, man, there was a lot of times where we were like, Rudy, no, what are you doing? And then we're like, Rudy, no, Rudy, no, Rudy, yes, Rudy, yes. There was a lot of those moments because you just saw him doing so much. He hadn't done that for us all season. Last season, what he did in the bubble, those shots that he was taking, he hadn't done any of that for the Spurs. That was like Sacramento Rudy, Memphis Rudy. It was those type of shots that he was taking in the bubble, because we really needed Rudy, man. We were down Trey Lyles, we were down Lamarcus. So we really needed that next guy up in that position, and that's Rudy Gay. So Rudy Gay came in, he delivered. I'm not mad at it. I wish he would have played a little bit better during the regular season. I don't know if that was because of injury or he just couldn't get it going, maybe. But he got a great payday the previous offseason, so I kind of expected a little bit more out of him. But Rudy Gay is a guy that is crucial to the development of our young guys. I think that he's been that vocal guy to Spurs Nation, saying these young guys are ready, man. Lonnie's ready, man. Keldon can play. He's a guy that wanted to be that guy all season. And you got to respect the veteran leadership that he brings to the table. And I really honestly think that's what we're paying him for. We're paying him for that veteran leadership. We don't need him to take those 11 to 12 shots per game that he was taking in the bubble realistically moving forward, but we do need him to show these young guys the way, because he's a pro. He's a pro's pro. He's been in this league for a long time. He knows what it takes to be successful, right? So Rudy Gay is going to get a B- from me. I wish I can give him a B+, but he was probably going to get a C or D until he got into the bubble and decided to turn back the time machine, right? So Rudy Gay's going to get that B- for us. All right, so let's see who's next. Another controversial player this season and last season, and I'm always the guy that speaks up for this guy. Where's my little thing? This guy right here. Ready? Yeah, Belinelli. Whoever craps on Belinelli doesn't know basketball, and that's just the way I see it. If you ever hear anyone talk crap about Belinelli, you have no idea what you're talking about. They don't like the way he shoots, or they don't like the way he plays. They don't like him because they blocked him on social media. I don't know. But Marco Belinelli was one of the biggest X factors for us all season. He ate up Lonnie Walker's minutes in the beginning of the year, because to be honest, what he did, he did consistently. What he does it consistently. And when he came out in the bubble, he's another guy like Rudy Gay who just kind of jumped back a couple years in the time machine and started knocking down threes. He's crucial to everything, man. I mean, like shooting, and I always just chalk it up to shooting. So I hate it how people just get on Bryn Forbes and Marco. Those are our two best shooters on the team. There are no two other shooters on this team that can shoot the way these guys do. We lost Davis, right? Like we don't have perimeter shooting. Derrick White had to come out of nowhere in the bubble and knock down all these open three balls for us to shoot well from beyond the arc to space the floor. But Marco is the guy that does that for us. Let's take a look at his stats. Per game this year, Marco Belinelli played in 57 games, 15.5 minutes per game. I mean, come on, dude. That's like the second lowest out of anyone who really played this year for us, right? I know later on in the season he started playing less and less, and that's because Lonnie Walker started playing better and better. But kudos to Marco for not just laying over and letting Lonnie Walker take his minutes. So I like Marco. Marco's a guy that I won't be surprised if he's not on our squad next year, because he can still play, and I think in the role that he's in with us is one that isn't gonna. I think it'll elongate his career. Like if he stays with San Antonio, stays playing 15, 17 minutes per game, taking about 6-7 threes per game, a couple mid-range jumpers. That's where he needs to be. That's where he needs to live for us. So I'm happy with Marco. I wish he played a little bit better during the regular season. So for that, let's go ahead and give him a B-. By the way, you guys can go to Order on the Court at OOC Spurs on Twitter, and I made all these polls for our whole roster, where you guys right now can go to our Twitter and vote on your grade for our roster. All right, so go to OOC Spurs on Twitter. There's plenty of polls there where you can put A, B, C, or D for our entire roster. So go let us know what you think. All right, go and let us know. Now, let's see where we're at here. Next on the Spurs for their final grade is Mr. Jakob Poeltl. Another guy who all season long we're waiting. We're waiting to see how much he improved. I remember last year what he did in the playoffs. He showed that he can defend very, very well in this league. And then coming into the season, we had heard a lot about his improvement, how he was starting to do a few more things than he did last year, offensively. Defensively, you know who he is, I think. Can he get more efficient with his defense? Sure. And who's better to learn from than Tim Duncan there in the practice gym with him? So Jakob Poeltl didn't play that much at all, man. And we really wanted to see him and I really wanted to see him and Lamarcus play together, because defensively, those two guys protecting the rim is something that I think we could have needed, even though that means that Lamarcus Aldridge has to go out sometimes and guard in the perimeter, which he does not do well at all. All right, so that's one thing that Lamarcus didn't do well this season, was guard out in the perimeter. Whenever he got switched up on guards, it was, hey, free lane to the basket, right? But when you keep Lamarcus at the basket, he was efficient, and Jakob is kind of that same guy. Jakob's a little bit more versatile on the perimeter, but when we were on hiatus, he had that interview with, I think it was an Austrian reporter, and he was saying, he's not really happy in San Antonio because he thinks he deserves more of an opportunity, and I agree, because, dude, he was in that Kawhi Leonard trade. He was in the Kawhi Leonard trade, right? So we did expect a little bit more out of him, and to see Trey Lyles come in this offseason and play as much as he did, and Jakob not really get the opportunity until the bubble. And when we saw him play in the bubble, as that small ball 5, we liked that. We liked seeing Jakob play there. So he showed us a lot in the bubble what he could bring to the table. And it's kind of unfortunate that I have a feeling that he's not going to be with us next season. Let me say this. If Lamarcus Aldridge is with us next season, Jakob Poeltl is going to look to go somewhere else. He's going to sign a deal with another team that's going to be up to San Antonio to match it, because he's a restricted free agent. So Jakob Poeltl is a guy, unfortunately, if I have to give him a grade on the season, it's not the one I wish he got, but he's going to go ahead and get that C. He didn't get enough minutes to prove that he got a B or an A, right? Definitely didn't get an A, right? So let's look at a little bit at his stats. Jakob Poeltl played in 66 games, 17.7 minutes. Let's put this in perspective, right? So Lamarcus Aldridge, who played 33 minutes per game. Right behind him, you had Trey Lyles at 20 minutes per game. Jakob Poeltl at 17.7. So he was like the third guy, because a lot of the times we went with Trey Lyles at the small ball 5, and that hurt his production, right? So it's not a knock on Jakob. It's just that he didn't get his opportunity with us, and that's what he was upset about for in that report that came out. And to be honest, he can help so many other teams right now. He can help us, but in the same film room that I did on Lamarcus Aldridge being out, you get to see a little bit of what Jakob does for us, and kind of what is most important for me that Jakob brings to the table is how he's able to clear out the lane, clear out the big guy, create avenues for our guys to get to the rim, because we saw it in the bubble. The San Antonio Spurs did a lot of dribble handoff. It's like a little weave, right? They're just, Dejante would attack this way, hand off to Demar. Demar would get that handoff, rip, attack the paint, nothing there. Okay, he would hand it off to the next guy, and then he would get it and then go the opposite way, and they would just kind of attack. We didn't have a lot of shooters, and what a guy like Jakob does is he's smart enough to open up those lanes by pushing and moving and sealing the big guy high, or sealing him low, or just kind of getting him out of the way so one of these guys can get to the rim. And until guys like Lonnie start shooting more consistent, until guys like Dejante and Derrick White, Keldon Johnson start shooting that ball a little bit better, and they're going to be guys that like to go to the rim, and you need a guy like Jakob to clear the way, or do you want a guy like Lamarcus Aldridge who doesn't necessarily do that? More often, Lamarcus Aldridge is a guy that when someone's penetrating, he likes to pop out and get to his short corner, get to his elbow, get to a spot to receive a pass to knock down his sick mid-range jumper. I don't blame him, but with the rest of the team that we have, their skill set is like athleticism to the rim, to be honest. Sure, Lonnie can hit the mid-range jumper, but it's not really there yet for him, right? So that's the next guy on our list. Let's go ahead and get to him. I can't leave out the Roman numeral on this kid. Lonnie Walker IV. I'm going to be doing a whole podcast saga on Lonnie Walker on the Order on the Court podcast. So if you guys love podcasts, if you're a podcast listener, go to Order on the Court, search it up. It's on iTunes, Spotify, a couple other places. You can find us there. We're planning a whole slate, guys. We're going to be bringing you Spurs and NBA content every day of the week except Sunday, pretty much. You'll get me and my pops. I don't know if you've heard some of my other podcasts with me and my dad, but he's a Spurs OG, and we love talking basketball. He played basketball, I played basketball, all that type of stuff. We combat all the time. It's fun. Anyways, I'm gonna do a Lonnie Walker saga, and my dad's gonna kind of roll with that with me, because his second year in this NBA season, like the second year of his NBA career, was a roller coaster. Let me give you a little bit of a preview of what's to come. going back to last year's summer league, he really had the opportunity to show what he can do, right? Remember that game against the Toronto Raptors in the summer league where he dropped 30 some points in the game, 32 or 35, but he had 25 of those in the first half. You know, what happened in that second half? You know, there's a lot to dive into that. And then coming into the season, he didn't get any tick until December, right? So the first, I don't know how many games, and like the first 11, 12 games in November, he didn't even play. He played once against the Clippers. Pop pulled him out for blowing a defensive assignment and all that stuff, and everyone's getting mad. Everyone's like, where's Lonnie? Where's Lonnie? Where's Lonnie? Why is Marco playing more than Lonnie, right? And it's because Lonnie needed to show that he can do what he needs to do on the defensive side of the ball consistently. And it wasn't like he can't do it, but I did a video actually on my channel. I was in my classroom. I remember I did a video on where's Lonnie Walker, and I said in that video that I think this is just one of those Pop, you know, playing that guru mind games on Lonnie, making him want it, making him earn it, making him like really, really hungry in the first month of the season. Because once December came around, there wasn't a game that he played less than 11 minutes in, right? I think from that point on, and then you get some great performances out of him, like the one in Houston, right? That was in December too. So he started playing well in December and started playing even a little bit more consistent in January. And then like in the bubble, where did he go? Right? So meanwhile, in the hiatus though, you got to give him all the props in the world for being the person that he is. The way he went to go help out San Antonio, clean up like after the riots. Like, dude, like Lonnie Walker is a pro's pro. He is a Spur, like from the head, you know, down to his competitive nature. I feel like his smarts, his personality. He's a guy that just fits the mold for San Antonio. He has a lot he has a lot of room to grow. He still has. We all know his ceiling is like through the roof, but in the bubble, he had all the opportunity to kind of show that he's ready for that. And there was a few games that he played well in. I think those were those first two games against Sacramento and Memphis. And then for the rest of the bubble play, he was kind of non-existent. I remember Harrison he made a graphic talking about those first two games and then everything else. It was just like two different players. That's because defenses started, I'm sure, taking away his lanes to the basket. And then he really didn't find his shot all that well in the bubbles. And so I remember talking about when people started kind of giving him a little bit of slack for how he was playing. I kind of came out on the other side and just said, I just love that he's having to face adversity. You know what I mean? So I love that this is one of those. The bubble play for Lonnie Walker was all about opportunity to get better through successes and through failures, through challenges. Like when he played, I know it was a scrimmage game, but against the Brooklyn Nets, when he was going up against Karis LeVert, the whole game, there was a lot of times where Karis LeVert got the best of Lonnie. But when I was looking at that, I was like, man, this is great. Like, this is great for Lonnie. Lonnie needs to be going up against competition like this because it's only going to make him better, right? So, Lonnie Walker, I hate to say it, he had a great game against Houston. Great game. He had a lot of great games against Phoenix, against Boston. There's a couple games throughout this regular season where he showed flashes of what he can do. We just need him to do it consistently so he can start or play more than 12 to 15 minutes a game. So I'm gonna go ahead and give him a C. Hope you don't hate me, Spurs Nation, on this one. But yeah, all right. So really quick, let's kind of go through. Oh, did I give Marco Belinelli a grade? Let me see. Well, let's go through it now. We're going through the bench. Derrick White gets that A+. Patty Mills gets that A. Rudy Gay gets a B-. Marco Belinelli is just solid with the B there. Jakob Poeltl gets a C. And Lonnie Walker gets a C. Now, if you want to go back to the beginning of the season, these two guys right here were supposed to be crucial parts of our rotation. and they ended up just not being. Okay, and which led to, I think, us having the season that we had. All right, so let's do our rookies next. If I'm missing anyone, let me know. First up, come on, man, Mr. 50-50 himself, Keldon, the Hound Johnson. Y'all know how I feel about Keldon, right? I mean, y'all can go look at any of the film rooms that I've done on Spurs Film Room, my YouTube channel. I have at least 3 or 4 videos in there that have Keldon in there because, like I said earlier, when I talk about Derrick White, I love the defensive side of this game. And I like it when players excel on the defensive side. That's why Kawhi Leonard, it hurt me. Oh, it hurt, but it's all filled up. There's no hole in here anymore. I'm good. But Keldon Johnson has the capability of being like that guy, being like that good on the defensive side of the ball. We saw it in flashes towards the end of the regular season. I'm saying regular season as like pre-bubble. Okay, so like pre-bubble, the last 6-7 games, Keldon Johnson was part of our rotation. And I don't want to go back and, say I was right and all that stuff. Y'all know me. I like to talk about, I was one of the only guys saying that Keldon Johnson needed to be in San Antonio more than he needed Austin. And at the end of the day, I don't think anyone's going to convince me that I'm wrong. Everyone can say, oh, he needed to develop. Austin did great things for him, and it did. I love Austin. Austin always does great things for whoever is there. So first round pick, second round pick, free agent, whatever, 10-day contract guy, whatever. He's going to improve in Austin. But we needed Keldon more than we needed him to be in Austin. Prove me I'm wrong. We missed the playoffs. First time in 22 years. Y'all think we would have missed the playoffs if Keldon Johnson was bringing that defensive tenacity from day one? Because I'm telling you this, his defense was ready since the summer. Me and my dad went to Summer League last year. We saw Keldon Johnson play. My dad saw it too. He's like, dang, this guy's ready, man. This guy's he's so confident. And it's not about what he did with the ball. It was just the way he communicated, his aggressiveness, his attitude, the tenacity that he brings, the extra efforts that he puts on every single defensive possession that he's on the floor in. And sure, he got to learn a lot in Austin, but we needed this kid. And I remember seeing like the training camp interview. If you go back to training camp this past season, there's one interview with Keldon, and Keldon is just like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I did what I can do. I did what I do out here. Now it's just kind of up to the coaches, or whatever. He was kind of like not about. I think he had already known that he's gonna go to Austin, and I can tell that he was just like, dude, I don't need to go to Austin, and not that he had like an attitude, like not that that's a bad thing. It's just that he knew that he was ready, and competitively he was ready. And to me, it's like he needs to be in San Antonio, man. It's just like, dude, what were we missing? I was saying it all year. What he brings to the table is what we were missing throughout the whole year. Mateo's in here saying that the energy that it rubs off onto others, absolutely, right? So let me give you a shout out here, Mateo. Mateo's lighting up my chat room, and I like it. I like this one too. Our own Hellhound. I like that name. Has that been said on TV or anything like that? Or Hellhound? Because that one's got a stick. I like that one. So Keldon, to me, it wasn't like when he came into the last 6 games of the season. If you look at what he was doing on the offensive side of the ball, he wasn't doing anything. They would put him in the corner, and they would just say, hey, like, just stand there. Don't even touch the ball. But you know what he would do? Someone would miss a shot. He'd go get the rebound and go put it back, and that's how he would get his buckets, right? Excuse me. So Keldon Johnson is a guy that him and Derrick White on the floor has got to be our best 1-2 punch on the defensive side of the ball, for real. Those two guys are on the same page. Like, defensively, the way those guys help and rotate, the way they communicate. Yeah. So those two guys. Keldon Johnson, for being the guy that he is, for accepting the process and never whining about it, never just like, he just stayed humble, stayed ready, and when we called on him, he was ready to deliver. So Keldon Johnson gets that A, hands down. All right, so our next rookie. Now this is a different story for y'all, not for me. What I mean by that is Luka Samanic, our 19th pick. And Luka Samanic's film room that I did on my channel, Spurs Film Room, by the way, go subscribe to my channel as well. I did a film room on him back in January. I think it was back in January. I had seen him play a couple times in Austin. You know, I'd been following what he had been doing because I'm a real big fan of this guy because he's so raw, but he has all the skill sets to be exact like a Swiss Army knife for our team, because he can do a lot of things that a lot of other guys can't do. Straight up, like, he can shoot better than a lot of other guys. He can pick and pop just as well as Trey Lyles does. He can play make. He can get the rebound and go in transition. He's so smart. He only has like 3-4 moves, but he uses them so efficiently. He never mixes it up. He never attacks when he shouldn't, or shoot when he shouldn't. You know, he's always making the right play. Luka. All right. So in the beginning of the year, I said we needed Keldon Johnson and we needed Luka Samanic in San Antonio, and I still don't think I'm wrong. Did Luka need Austin more than Keldon? Yeah, he did. Did Luka need the reps more than Keldon? Yes. Let's look at the bubble though. Now I know you can say, hey, well, he's playing in the bubble. You know, I'm talking about that last game. He only got to play real, you know how I was saying earlier about Lonnie Walker, and they did the guru pop guru stuff on him this year. I think they kind of did that to Luka in the bubble, because the first time Luka played in the first scrimmage game that he got run in the last 5 minutes, I forgot what team it was, but he didn't even touch the ball, right? Like, he wasn't even. But he's not the first guy that I've seen the Spurs do that to. Like, these young guys, when they get those early opportunities, I feel like the Spurs on purpose tell them, like, hey, you're not touching the ball. All you're doing is running out there. You're getting used to it. Get your legs under you. Be competitive. Don't worry about anything on the offensive side of the ball. Hey, matter of fact, the rest of you guys, the other 4 guys on the floor with him, better not pass him the ball because he's not ready. In other words, get this guy on the floor. Let him adjust mentally. Let him build just his swagger. Let him get his feet under him. And I feel like that's what Luka did in the first game that he played in the bubble. The second game, he was a little bit more in tune, where he was running to the right spots a little bit more aggressively. He got a couple touches, but even when he touched the ball, he wasn't looking to score or anything. It was more about just running the offense. So that's like the second time that he was out there. You see like the progression from like not even touching the ball and not knowing where to go to the second time he's out there playing with a little bit more confidence, getting the ball in his hands, getting rid of it, getting more comfortable. And then we finally got to see him do what he can do in the last game against Utah. So he finally got to get some run again. That was against their second unit too, so it really was like a G League game for him. But he played well in that game. He, I think, finished with like 16 points. Matter of fact, the Spurs went at him. Like, the Spurs gave him the rock in the first like 2 or 3 offensive possessions of the game. You see what I'm saying? Like, those are the mind tricks that the Spurs do. Like first game in, you can't touch the ball, Luka. Second game in, you can touch it, but you can only pass it. You can't look to score. Just make sure you're in the right spots. You're playing hard. Be aggressive. Go after the rebound. Third game for Luka Samanic was the last game of the bubble, where nothing really mattered, so we let him play, and we saw everything you can do. The first possession of the game, we gave him the ball on the block. We gave him the ball on the low block, where he took 2 dribbles into the guy and then got fouled, went to the free throw line, got his first 2 points in the NBA from the free throw line, right? So there's a progression there. And here's my thing. That progression could have happened in San Antonio from the beginning of the season. That's my thing. Because I'm a believer in you raise your level to the competition you're playing against. And I feel like guys like Keldon and guys like Luka, and remember, again, me and my dad went to Summer League last year. We saw Luka play, and last year, Luka looked bad on defense, like bad. It looked like almost every bucket we gave up was like somehow in relation to his lack of rotation or something on the defensive side last summer. But he also showed a lot of good things that he can do as well. A lot of things that we don't do well. That's the thing. Keldon and Luka do things well that we didn't do well all year. So I know they needed Austin. I know it's going to be beneficial for them in the future. But I think this progression that I'm talking about, I think that he could have done that in the first 30 games of the season. You know, he needs to be in the gym against NBA players so he can raise his own level of competitiveness and like prove to himself that he can play against some of these talented players. Like, tell me this. You get two scenarios. Luka Samanic is playing in the G League all year against G League competition, playing a lot, getting all these reps, very beneficial to his IQ of what the Spurs got going on, right? On both sides of the floor. Or he's having to battle day in and day out against Lamarcus Aldridge, Rudy Gay, Trey Lyles, a lot of guys like that in practice. I think practice against the guys on our main roster, that there's so much development that can occur there. It doesn't always have to just occur in Austin.
Listen to music with
your screen locked. I'm not hating on Austin. A lot of people just want to tell me, oh, no, I'm wrong. You know, the Spurs are going to do what they do. It's a proven thing. Hey, look at Derrick White. Look at Lonnie Walker. Look at Dejante. Guys, I know. And you're not wrong. If that's what you're telling me, you're not wrong. But these guys could have been in a Spurs jersey, getting better, playing against guys like Patty Mills, Lamarcus Aldridge, Derrick White, Dejante. You know, Keldon Johnson could have been playing against those guys all year in practice and maybe getting some opportunities in these games that we just laid eggs in the first, those first 30 games, bro. Those first 30 games did us in. It just told us how the rest of the season, we shouldn't have expected anything else. I mean, we didn't change anything. Like the same starting lineup, the same rotations, like we didn't change anything all year long. So I know that proves y'all's point to say like, oh, who's to say Keldon and Luka would have even gotten any minutes in San Antonio? And you're probably right. They probably wouldn't have. But there were some games in there we played so bad where they could have gotten in the game. And then prove, you know, that's their opportunity to prove whatever it is that they're ready for, you know? So I think Luka could have also been in the NBA with the Spurs all season long. Keldon Johnson is more of an obvious for sure thing, right? So obviously Keldon Johnson needs to be in San Antonio. Obviously Keldon Johnson could have helped us from the beginning because he wasn't just doing this, what he did in the bubble, like during the last month of the season. He's been playing this style of defense all year long, even in the summer. Okay, the NBA game really fits Keldon Johnson well on both sides of the floor. You know, in Austin, he got to show. Okay, I'm kind of talking about Keldon Johnson again. In the bubble, Keldon got to show what he's been working on offensively. The corner three, right? He hit a couple of those. And he shot like 20% from three in Austin. Keldon did, right? So, I don't know, man. I mean, Keldon's a gamer. That's another thing that we keep saying about Keldon is that he's a gamer. It's like he doesn't need to have a good stat line. You know what I mean? Like, because that proves your point right there. Like, he shot like 20% from the three, but in the bubble, he was knocking down threes like if he had been hitting them all season long at 35%. You know what I mean? That's just because he's ready. He's a gamer. He's locked in. He's competitive. He can turn it on. You know, like, again, in Austin, he didn't need to hit threes. Why? Because the competitive level was so low. These guards in Austin are so small, small compared to Keldon Johnson. He's just so much bigger than everyone else he was playing against that he would just get to the rim whenever he wants. He didn't have to shoot well from the three, realistically. But in the bubble, in the NBA, that corner three was going to be necessary. And what did he do? Did he shoot 29% from the field? No, he hit it. And that's what I'm saying, that we needed him all year, you know, because he would have been raising his own game against the level of competition that he plays against. Sure, that would have taken minutes away from Lonnie. That would have taken minutes away from Bryn, a couple of these other guys. But boo-hoo, we missed the playoffs for the first time in 22 years. Tell me I'm wrong. Back to Luka Samanic. He's going to go ahead and get a C from me. And not really a knock on him. He didn't really get to do much all year for San Antonio, which is a big missed opportunity. Watch what he does in the next 2 years for us. He's really going to be one of those key guys. I see him backing up Trey Lyles. Or shoot, depending on what our roster looks like next year, he might end up playing a lot because Jakob might be gone. Who knows what happens with Demar Derozan? Whatever happens with Demar Derozan is going to ipso facto affect what happens with Lamarcus Aldridge. So if Lamarcus Aldridge isn't there and Jakob isn't there, well, here you go, Luka. It's your time to shine. It's time to develop, baby. I think we should maybe look at a big man in this year's draft. I like Precious Achiuwa or Isaac Okoro. Those are two guys that I love in this draft. And I don't know if any of those guys, I think Precious, I need to talk to my guy Harrison. Guys, on Tuesday, Harrison's dropping like a podcast on some of his Spurs 11th pick, like priority players, that to look for in the draft. So again, just real quick, let me do a shout out for our podcast, Order on the Court. If you like podcasts, we're going to have podcasts dropping Monday through Saturday for you guys. If you want to get on our podcast, go become a 6-man member, right? Go to ocspurs.com, sign up to be a 6-man. Then you go to the 6-man tab. On that page, there's a voice box. And you get to leave voicemails, and we'll answer them on our Saturday's episode. So a lot of podcasts coming from Order on the Court. We're kind of taking a little bit of a backseat here on this video content. We're still going to be doing OOC Live for you guys every Tuesday. This upcoming Tuesday, you have myself and Maddie. I think Maddie might have a graduation or something going on, so he might not be there. It might just be me. But we're going to go in pairs for the remainder of this offseason. But Harrison's working on a lot of draft content for you. He has about like 10 prospect videos, and those are going to be for our 6-man only too. So if you want to get like early prospect watch videos where Harrison breaks down why or why not someone might not be a good fit for the Spurs and goes over their play with, sometimes he has guests on, and all that's for our 6-men only. So go become an OOC Spurs 6-men to have opportunities to get on the show and opportunities for exclusive content. Okay, so Luka Samanic is going to get this C. I don't expect him to stay around this C for a long time. This grade here has no reflection on how I feel about this kid. To me, I think we needed him all season long. He could have developed under, dude, think about it. He could have been being coached by Tim Duncan all season. Instead, he was in Austin being coached by, Coach Ahern. I love that guy. I love the whole staff in Austin. They're great. Coach Self, right? All those guys. I just think we needed him a little bit more. So let's move on from Luka and let's talk about our last player. Our last rookie. Very long name for me to type out here, but worth it. Quindary Weatherspoon. I've done a film room on all of our rookies, so if you really want to learn more about Keldon Johnson, Luka Samanic, and Quindary Weatherspoon, go to Spurs Film Room on YouTube and check out their film rooms that I did on them. Quindary is a guy that stepped up in the bubble play. Quindary is a 4-year college vet out of Mississippi State. Plays roll low to the ground, very savvy, very smart off the ball, very smart with the ball. He didn't shoot that well in the bubble, but if you look at how he shot in Austin, dude lit it up from 3. I went to an Austin game against the Greensboro Swarm, right? And Quindary just lit it up. He did everything that game, man. He was dropping dimes. He put a couple guys on posters. He dropped about 35, right? So Quindary is a complete player. He can really do it all. He can rebound. He's so smart. He's a guy that I would hate to see gone. I would hate to see him on another roster because we got it right when we drafted him in the 2nd round. We got it right with Quindary. Quindary is a Spur. He's a guy that's smart enough and on both sides of the floor to impact the game. Again, like I just said, he can light it up on offense, but he's sneakily smart on defense as well. You know, kind of in the same vein as Derrick White, how he sees the play. You know, Quindary has a lot of potential, and I just hope that we're able to bring him back. Right? I guess there's one more guy I should talk about, because I always give this guy a lot of credit, and I'll talk about him in a second. But Quindary, if I'm gonna give him a grade on how he played in Austin and how he played in the bubble, let's go ahead and give Quindary a B. All right, so Quindary stepped up when we needed him to. I think there was a couple times in the bubble where he underperformed when we needed him to kind of hit some open shots, but there was a couple games where he played like, I bet you a lot of Spurs Nation was like, who's this guy? Who's Quindary? Who's this? Weatherspoon? Weatherspoon? Oh wow, that's a long name on his jersey. Kind of goes all the way across, right? But he's the truth. He's a guy that reminds me a lot of like Baron Davis, Chauncey Billups. A lot of those low to the ground, post you up, bulldog you type of player. So Quindary gets a B. So let's kind of go through these rookies again. Keldon Johnson gets the A. Luka Samanic gets a C. Quindary Weatherspoon gets a B. Quindary actually played a little bit during the regular season too. He got a couple of chances to run with the Spurs before the bubble as well, and I think he played well in those opportunities. Last guy, how can I forget one of my favorite guys on this team, Drew Eubanks. Big Drew. A lot of people want to talk about, I'm not gonna do I have to do Chimezie? Spurs Nation, do I have to do Chimezie too? Do I have to give Chimezie a grade? All right, we'll see. Let's talk about Drew Eubanks first. Everyone is on the same page when they say, well, wow, like Chimezie he shows us a lot. Like, man, like he can be really good. Why doesn't he play? Why is Drew Eubanks getting the call, getting the minutes over Chimezie? Why? And let me tell you why. And it's because, sure, Drew only has one move. He has the hook shot, right? He doesn't really do much on the offensive side, where Chimezie can do a lot of things. But what Drew does, he does it consistently. He gives you the effort. He gives you the communication. He gives you the rebounding. He went up against Jokic and Joel Embiid in the bubble and balled out. He played good. Like, he played well, surprisingly well. You know, I think everybody was afraid, you know, like when Jakob picked up the early foul and it's like, oh shit, you know, like Drew's gonna have to come in early and really step up, and he did. And he even got a couple easy buckets, finished with like 8 to 10 points or something like that, just off like garbage stuff. But you know what I love about Drew? Like he almost got like a technical every game that he played in, man. Like in some bull calls, like he would like dunk on someone, stare him down, and then the refs would tee him up. I'm just like, what? Why? You know? So Drew is a guy that I love, and if we can keep him around for as long as we can, I would love that, because he proved in the bubble that he can be a serviceable second or third string backup in this league. He can. He proved it. I think that's all we really needed him to do, is prove it, because we know what he does. Well, he's very smart. He stays in his lane, stays in his role, and doesn't try to do anything silly, like take all these mid-range jumpers or, you know, try to tack someone off the dribble or put the ball on the floor. He never puts the ball on the floor. He gets it. He's either going up with it or he's getting rid of it, right? So he did very well this year, not only in Austin. I got to see him play in Austin as well, but in the bubble is where he impressed me the most. So because of that, because of his bubble play, let's go ahead and give Drew Eubanks a B+. I hope he sticks around for a little while. That's someone that I would love to see on our team for a long time, very much for the same reason that we love to see Patty Mills, like that energy guy, the guy that's on the bench, the guy that keeps, like, don't underestimate how important that guy is to a roster. Look at Philadelphia. Philadelphia wishes they had a guy like Drew Eubanks and Patty Mills like as their their hype guy on the bench, man. Like, okay, let's just stick with Drew. If they had a guy like Drew as their 14th, 15th guy on the bench, I think camaraderie might be a little bit better, because the team has to gel, man. You can have all the talent in the world, but if they don't get along, they don't gel, things are too serious, they don't have those guys that level you out, because you have those serious dudes that are just all about their business, about the game, about going to work, and then you have the other guys who aren't that good, but they love being there and they put in the extra efforts all the time. And in practice, the coach is always probably calling out, this, for example, when Trey Lyles isn't getting it done in the effort category, I'm sure he calls on Drew and lets Drew get in some run, and then he calls on Trey Lyles saying like, hey, Drew can do it, why can't you? So Drew's kind of that guy that can balance you out, not necessarily in the games. Obviously he didn't play that much, even though he had some awesome posters this year. That one on Detroit, ooh, the guy, Giannis's brother Antetokounmpo, he got postered by Drew, pretty nasty. And then Drew picks up a technical. That's what I'm talking about, man. These refs were hating on Drew in the bubble, man, because he'd go put a guy on a poster and tee him up. So Drew's a guy that has so much value in just being the person that he is to this team. It's not about what he does on the floor, even though he showed us in the bubble that he can play well on the floor. It's about everything else. And some people discard that and saying that's not important. Yeah, that's nice and all. A lot of people like to say that's nice and all, but we need someone better. They might say that, and I would disagree. I would say I don't care how good the next guy is. Look at Chimezie, which is the next guy we're going to talk about. Chimezie's got all the talent in the world, but what does it bring to the table what Drew does? Okay, so now if we got a guy like Precious Achiuwa in the draft, does that mean Drew maybe doesn't stick around? Maybe. We'll see. But Chimezie Metu. Everyone loves this guy. Everyone thinks that his ceiling is high, but I was in that boat during his first year in Austin. During his first year in Austin, he showed us that he really could be like a small ball five, very Draymond Greenish. He can do some things on the offensive side of the ball. He can shoot the three a little bit better. He's super athletic, but I think it's the effort thing with Chimezie. Like, you see how, like, with Drew, the effort is always gonna be there. The effort's always gonna be there. With Chimezie, I don't know. Does he get his touches? Maybe if he gets his touches, the effort goes up. I see him taking a lot of bad shots when he does play. There's the game against Chicago this year where he got plenty of run, and he didn't impress me at all. A couple other times too where he just kind of had the moments. Later on in the season, Drew Eubanks got the call up when Jakob went down and Lamarcus went down, and you had Trey Lyles playing a lot. Drew Eubanks got the call, but Metu got the call earlier on in the season. During the middle of the season, he actually played with the Spurs a few times, and I wasn't impressed. Sure, did he get like one really good block or like one really good dunk a game? Sure. But everything else, there was too many gaps, between everything else. Too many gaps, like in the consistency category with Chimezie. So Chimezie, wow, Chimezie's going to get my only failing grade on this roster is a D. So let's go from the top and let's work our way down. Lamarcus Aldridge ends up getting a B. Was really doing something special on the defensive side of the ball. Definitely in the block category. Was 10th in the league when he got injured. Demar Derozan gets an A. Really helped develop these young guys in the bubble. Loved how we utilized him in the second half in games, and he was closing out games. Love that style. I love that stuff, right? So DeMar DeRozan, if he sticks around for the future for San Antonio, I love that concept of style play with DeMar. Dejante Murray gets that B-. Could have gotten a C, but I'm giving him a little bit of slack for just coming off the injury. And realistically, he didn't lose a step on the defensive side of the ball like he led us in steals. He brings down about 4 or 5 rebounds per game. So he does all the little things, and I'm not really gonna factor in his offensive stuff because he's limited just because of the players that he's playing with most of the time. Trey Lyles gets a B because he was either that guy that was gonna help us win, or he was a no-show, and then we end up getting blown out against like the Cavs or something like that. But he did also step up at the end of the season when we needed him, and that's important. Like that's what really stands out to me, is when we really needed him, he was there. When Lamarcus got hurt and Jakob got hurt the following game, there was really no one else besides Trey Lyles and Drew Eubanks on our roster, and Trey Lyles stepped up in every category. Bryn Forbes underperforms this season in my eyes. I'm on the same page as the rest of Spurs Nation. If he would have came off the bench, he probably would have lit it up. And I agree. Just that starting, and it's not even that he's can't be a starter. I think he can be a starter in this league. He can be a starter for us, but not with this team, not with that lineup. No way, right? It's got to be a totally different thing. You know what I mean? So Bryn Forbes gets the C. Let's go to our bench. Derrick White, for all the reasons why I talked about earlier, he's going to get an A+ from me. Patty Mills was our 3rd best player all season long, gets the A. Rudy Gay gets the B-. Struggled during the pre-bubble regular season, but during the bubble play was one of our main guys. One of our main guys that we went to. Marco Belinelli gets the B, just because I feel like he was also one of those guys in the bubble that was very efficient and really helped us when he did play. And during the regular season, coming off the bench, man, we needed points from this guy. Like, cause I don't know if you remember. I mean, I know I said it earlier, but you know how we would always start off games really bad and slow for like all season long with that lineup, and then the bench would come in and then they turn things around. They turn things around. Well, a lot of that wasn't just because of Derrick and Patty, but it was because of Marco. Marco was the other guy that can go in there and drop 12 points for you, in 10, 15 minutes. So he helped us out there. Jakob Poeltl, wish I could have given him a better grade, but him saying that he's not happy with his role. He thinks he can help the team. He thinks he can help a team. And he showed in the bubble that he can. And he'll never get the opportunity to do that with the Spurs as long as Lamarcus Aldridge is on this squad. He's like a 5th-year guy. He's not just like a rookie or 2nd-year guy. No, he's trying to make a living in this league. And he's just as good as like half of the other centers that are in this league right now. So he does need to get more minutes. He should be getting about 17 to 19 minutes a game, and this year he was hanging around a little under 17, right? So he needs to do a little bit better, I guess. I don't know. Jakob showed what he can do when he's the small ball 5, and that's what I like. Lonnie Walker gets the C as well. Don't hate me for it. Lonnie Walker's play this year during the pre-bubble was probably more impressive to me than what he did in the bubble, because there was the game against Houston, Phoenix, Boston, a couple games this year where he really showed that he belongs, and then against some quality teams, so in the bubble he played good against Sacramento and Memphis, but then disappeared for the last 6 games. So for that reason, I'm going to give him a C, and that's because we all know how high his ceiling is. Keldon Johnson gets the A.
At Farmers, we know how nice it is.
Big body is ready.
Policy, but it's even nicer knowing that if this happens.
Luka Samanic gets the C. Quindary Weatherspoon gets a B. Drew Eubanks gets the B+ for showing out in the bubble. Chimezie gets the lone D. Not a knock on Chimezie. I really like Chimezie. I really wish that I was wrong here on Chimezie. But that's going to be it for us grading the Spurs roster. I'm going to go ahead and upload this on our podcast feed later. So make sure that you tune into our podcast. We're on Apple, Spotify. If you want to be on our weekend mailbag-ish show, we call it the 6-man voice box. You need to be a 6-man. Go to oocspurs.com, become a 6-man, click on the voice box, leave a voicemail, a question, a comment in the world of NBA or Spurs, and we'll answer that for you guys, right? That's a perk about being a 6-man. It's only $5 a month, and that's a $5 foot long. Man, I've been seeing that commercial too much right now on the tube. But anyways, become an OC 6-man. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for liking this video. Please like, subscribe, share it. Go Spurs go. Thank you guys for tuning in the comments and hanging out with us. Appreciate y'all. Chimezie gets the loan, L-O-N-E. D. He's the only guy that got a D on this in my class today. This is my classroom and I'm giving rosters. Eduardo, get your mind out of the gutter. Hi from Singapore. Let me kind of go into this in this chat for a little bit for you guys. Gio, thanks for stopping by. You're always one of the OGs. LJ, let's see what you got to say here, brother. I'm gonna go ahead and dive into this chat room for a second for you guys before I sign off. Until we open up to playing these young guys, these young players, we will continue to struggle. Nobody wants to get drafted by us because we want you to learn in the G League and play players that are not as good. Hey, is that LJ? LJ, excuse me if I'm saying that wrong, but you're not 100% wrong on that. I think there's players that think that, but those are the players that we don't want on our squad. Even if they're good enough, like Keldon was this year, we want the guys that can buy in. Like Lonnie Walker bought in, dude. Like since day one, bought in. And he was another one of those guys that needed it. His first year, this year, you know, it paid off. Less than an A+ for Derrick White, and you're gonna be canceled. He got an A+. Didn't I give him an A+? Let me see. Derrick White gets the A+. We're with you on that one, Eduardo. Let's see. Let me scroll up a little bit. Chris Kim. I'd like to see Metu in more NBA games. He played in a few this year. I'm not. He didn't kind of show up when we needed him to. LJ, look at Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray. How can they be that good if they don't get the minutes and the green light at times? Pop is too strict on our young players. This year, I agree with you, man. This year was the year, if any. I mean, come on, man. We missed the playoffs, you know, right? LJ is like, right? We missed the playoffs. You're telling me that these guys couldn't get more run? Yeah, I'm with you on that this year. But for every year before that, I would say that the strictness of the process that we use needs to be in place. Let's see what Sean Kelly has to say. Sean Kelly on YouTube says, I know you've moved off Drew, but don't forget those blocks at the rim. Shut the door on a few people. Yeah, no, I'm not off Drew. I love Drew. Drew's my guy. I wish he can stay here for a long time. Let's see. Who else is in here? Mateo Clivio on YouTube. Thank you for hanging out with us today, brother. Thank everyone that's in this chat room. All right, well, that's gonna be it for me on this episode. We've been going for about an hour and a half. Those are my grades for this roster this season. Hopefully next season we get a couple more A's in there, a couple more W's. I think that's the only letter that we should be worried about, our wins, W's, right? We need more of those. I don't like missing the playoffs. I don't like not being in the playoffs. You know, very weird feeling for us right now from the outside looking in. And then now one of our favorite rivalries against the Dallas Mavericks is going to be a hell of a problem for the foreseeable future because Luka's doing some work over there in Dallas. He's going to be there for a long time. So we need to get back to the competitive level that we can be at so we can make some noise. All right, so thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to this channel. You can find all the stuff that I do at Spurs Film Room across the platforms. I rebranded from Bucking Spurs. Check out my video on my channel about all that. Boy got married. There's a lot of things in my life that are changing right now. Not just this cool little dope setup. You like this? I'm gonna have to use this for like my classroom because I'm a teacher too. So this is gonna be like, you know, we're doing all this virtual learning stuff. Anyways, go Spurs go. Go to oocspurs.com. Make sure to follow OOC Spurs on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We're everywhere. There's a lot more podcast content coming for you guys. We're planning all this great stuff for our 6 men. So go become a 6 man right now at oocspurs.com. A lot of good things in the works for you guys. From me and the boys. All right. So go Spurs go. Court is adjourned.